They walk into a room and don't need to be seen. Not because they lack confidence, but because they've outgrown the need for validation. These are the women who don't chase crowds or thrive in cliques. They move in silence not to hide, but because they no longer crave noise. Intelligent women, the kind who read more than they talk, observe more than they post, and think far more than they speak, often find themselves disconnected from the rhythms of social life. Not because they're antisocial, but because they've discovered something deeper, something richer, something that society doesn't always understand. The truth is, intelligence has a cost, and one of its most overlooked prices is social detachment. While most people are busy trying to fit in, impress, or climb invisible ladders of popularity, intelligent women tend to opt out. Not out of arrogance, but because they see through it all. They recognize the games, the passive-aggressive compliments, the shallow conversations, the performative friendships held together by likes, gossip, and convenience. To an intelligent woman, this kind of social interaction feels exhausting. It's not stimulating, it's draining. She doesn't hate people. She just values her time, her energy, and her peace. She knows that being surrounded by bodies doesn't mean you're surrounded by connection, that sometimes the loudest rooms are the loneliest. These women understand the value of solitude. They've learned that their minds grow stronger in stillness. While others fear being alone, intelligent women seek it out. Not because they're hiding, but because it's in solitude that their creativity awakens, their thoughts expand, and their self-awareness sharpens. They'd rather spend an evening with a book that challenges their thinking than waste hours in a room filled with surface-level chatter. They crave depth, not just in others, but within themselves. And that depth makes small talk feel unbearable. It's not that they think they're better, it's that their standards have evolved. They need more than recycled stories, trendy opinions, or social theatrics to feel nourished. And when they do try to engage in typical social scenes, it often feels like wearing shoes that don't fit. They smile, they listen, they play the part, but deep down, they're disconnected. They're not judging, but they're analyzing. And when the conversation turns to gossip, or the night revolves around selfies and social validation, they feel like aliens. Because their minds are wired to ask why. Why are we pretending? Why are we competing? Why are we afraid to be real? And most importantly, why does no one else seem to notice? This internal dialogue makes intelligent women lonelier than most. Because being smart doesn't make you immune to loneliness, it often amplifies it. It creates a chasm between you and the world. While others bond over the superficial, intelligent women long for something more. Conversations that challenge, friendships that feel safe, silence that doesn't feel awkward. Most people want to be liked. Intelligent women want to be understood, and that difference changes everything. But here's what most people get wrong. Just because she's not constantly surrounded by people doesn't mean she's lonely. Just because she's not posting brunch pictures or attending every event doesn't mean she's missing out. In fact, intelligent women often feel most fulfilled when they're living quietly, purposefully, and authentically. They've learned to prioritize quality over quantity, not just in friendships, but in all areas of life. They understand that being selective isn't a flaw, it's a form of self-respect. And yes, it comes at a cost. Sometimes they're misunderstood, seen as aloof, arrogant, or too intense. People ask why they're so quiet, why they don't just relax, why they always seem to be somewhere else mentally. But they've learned not to take it personally, because when your mind operates on a different frequency, not everyone will hear your music. They've made peace with that. They know that their worth isn't dependent on how many people approve of them, but on how aligned they are with their values, their goals, their truth. And it's not that they don't want connection. They do. Desperately sometimes. But they've learned that settling for shallow interaction just to avoid loneliness is more damaging than solitude. They've tasted the emptiness of being surrounded by people who don't truly see them. And so they wait. They wait for the rare few who speak their language not just intellectually, but emotionally, spiritually. When they find those people, they open up. Fully, fiercely, authentically. But until then, they're okay being alone. Because they've built a life where alone doesn't mean lacking. It means freedom. freedom to think deeply, to create passionately, to rest fully, to say no without guilt, to protect their energy, to choose who and what gets access to their inner world. This is the quiet power of intelligent women. It's not loud, it's not flashy. It doesn't need an audience, it simply is. The world tells women to be likable before it tells them to be intelligent. From an early age, they're taught to smile more, be agreeable, stay small. But the intelligent woman, she learns early that her mind is both her power and her curse in a world that still feels threatened by it. She doesn't play dumb to attract attention. She doesn't dilute her opinions to maintain peace. And because of that, she often finds herself on the outside watching others blend in, while she continues to stand apart. But that's not loneliness. That's liberation. You see, intelligent women stop chasing social approval once they realize how fragile and conditional it is. They've seen how quickly admiration turns into envy, how support dissolves into silence when they succeed, how people are comfortable with their intelligence only as long as it doesn't surpass their own. And that's why intelligent women often walk alone, not because they think they're better than others, but because they're tired of shrinking themselves just to be accepted. It's not just about intellect, it's about emotional intelligence too. These women see through facades, they read between the lines, they sense energy shifts before words are even spoken. This emotional radar makes it hard to unsee the truth once it's been felt. They know when someone's lying, even if the words are sweet. They know when someone's pretending to care, even when the gestures seem kind. And because of that, fake interactions exhaust them. Surface-level relationships confuse them. Pretending becomes intolerable, so they distance themselves not to isolate but to preserve. Their solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a sentence, a place where they can think, feel, and simply exist without constantly scanning for hidden agendas. In this solitude, they build themselves. They develop skills. They nurture passion projects. They discover who they are outside the noise of others' expectations. While the world is distracted by parties and popularity, intelligent women are busy planting seeds no one sees until one day. Those seeds bloom into something undeniable. When you're an intelligent woman, your priorities shift. You stop chasing the highs of weekend plans and start chasing the peace of purposeful living. You choose environments that feed your soul, not just your social image. And while others might scroll through endless highlight reels comparing lives and chasing validation, you learn to find satisfaction in the life you're quietly building behind the scenes. You understand that real fulfillment comes not from being everywhere, but from being present where it actually matters. And yes, sometimes that means spending a Saturday night alone with a notebook, a film that challenges your emotions, or a long walk under the stars while everyone else is crowded in loud rooms trying to feel something. Intelligent women feel deeply, but not loudly. Their joy is quieter, their grief more private, and their connection to the world more reflective. They don't need to share everything. They don't need applause. Their self-worth is internal, not performative. This is why, for intelligent women, social life isn't about being seen. It's about being aligned. They don't want to go where everyone is. They want to go where they belong. They seek conversations that stretch their minds, not just fill the silence. Friendships that challenge their blind spots, not just echo their opinions. Love that respects their depth, not just their beauty. They can't fake connection, and they won't pretend to enjoy places or people that feel empty. Of course, this path isn't always easy. It can feel isolating. There are birthdays they don't get invited to, group chats they're left out of, inside jokes they don't understand. But over time, they stop seeing these as losses and start seeing them as redirections. What they lose in social noise, they gain in personal clarity. What they miss in group belonging, they find in self-possession. And that trade-off, it's worth it. Because there's a different kind of confidence that grows in the absence of constant social feedback. A confidence rooted in knowing who you are when no one's watching. A strength that doesn't depend on applause. Intelligent women cultivate this quietly, not for others, but for themselves. They stop performing. They stop pleasing. They stop explaining. And in doing so, they begin to reclaim pieces of themselves they didn't even know they'd given away. And here's the beautiful twist. Once they stop caring about a social life in the traditional sense, the right people begin to find them. People who resonate with their depth, not just their presence. People who don't feel threatened by their intelligence, but inspired by it. People who don't need small talk to feel close. The kind of people who meet you where you are not where they want you to be. That's the reward for walking your own path. It may be quieter, but it leads to something real. So when someone says, "She's too quiet," or "She's always in her own world," what they don't realize is, that world is built with intention. That quiet holds more wisdom than most loud rooms. That solitude is not a void, it's a sanctuary. Intelligent women don't avoid social life because they can't handle it. They avoid it because they've transcended it. They've learned that the most important relationship they'll ever have is with themselves.